How many of you can actually and clearly remember your early childhood years? You know, when you were 5 or 6, or maybe some of you are still at that age, but you know what I mean. We often believe that things were great, and they could have been. But the point is, everybody has their home childhood, what they remember, until now. Kids today, and I'm not putting them down or comparing, I'm just vocalising what this old brain of mine sees and automatically compares. I can't see much from this room, but I can see part of the street. And there was a kid this morning, phone up like this. He wasn't walking, it was just a shuffle, and he was wearing a hoodie. This is Queensland, for goodness sake, and we're into summer. I believe it's going to be about 36 degrees today. A hoodie. So that's the thing, the phone, the hoodie, and to shuffle. And I suppose when or if they ever get home, if they can find it, that is, they don't seem very bright, a lot of them, it's video games. Wouldn't have minded those when we were kids. Not knocking video games and the modern things they have these days. You can't see it from there, but I still have a lava lamp and a plasma ball and a few other things over in the corner of the bedroom to remind me of back then. And of course, so much music, except when this is on, this place is full of music. Anyway, I digress. The way I remember my childhood, and you have to bear in mind that twice my brain was totally starved of oxygen, nothing at all, when a certain little organ decided to stop. And I got away with it very luckily. Some people lose too much. I didn't lose all that much, but I don't know, because I've lost swags, yeah, a whole couple of years, 2 or 3 years gone, and then 6 months here, 6 months there. Even that's okay. What does it matter now? But the sad bit is that I probably knew a lot of people then, friends, male, female, whatever. Probably sat and had a lot of drinks with them, went to the theatre, gone. Maybe they'll come back one day, I don't know. When we were about 5, we were allowed out of the house for the day. We left just after breakfast, and we tried to get home before it got dark. And we would play in what was left of the bombed out buildings. I was about 5, so the war had been over 5 years. But there were a lot of priorities to get through. And one that even today tickles me a lot. Some total muffin in Whitehall during the war decided that all the signposts would be taken down and the names of railway stations would be removed from the platform. I think he thought that if a panzer division was moving down the road and they came to a blank signpost, they would get confused, give up and go home. Give me strength. How did we ever win that war? I don't know. Still, the ones in Whitehall weren't fighting it, were they? They were just finding ways to impede it. The buildings themselves were gradually getting cleared. We used to go looking for treasure trove. Didn't mean anything to us at all that this was people's houses and livelihoods and whatever, and that a lot of people had died there. And we were walking over where they died. At that age, doesn't mean a thing. Couple of points though. We're getting back to the Phycologists now, and you know what I think about them. One day we were actually in Stafford Wood because the Canadians had a huge ammo dump up there during World War II, and they were a bit careless about the clean-up. We used to collect things in boxes, and we had to hand them in at the primary school, and the army would come down and take them away. And I'm talking about things like hand grenades and bullets and I didn't actually find any weapons, well, none that worked, but a lot of things that went bang. Anyway, one day, Trevor Simmons, close friend, was walking ahead of us, because in those days, of course, we all walked 1,000 miles to get to school and back, rain, hail or snow. You have to understand that. And suddenly he wasn't there. Big bang. He was carrying a box. All the stuff he'd found, and there must have been something like a hand grenade in there or a couple. Probably the pins had gone, but they were rusted in place and the jolting sent it around. So that was one. Chris Travers, another one. He was on a bomb site and just fossicking around the way we do, and the brick chimney bit, which was the only bit standing, fell on him, dead as a dodo. 5 or 6 years old, I don't know, I can't remember. And then there was another type. They had a gorgeous girl in the village, Carol Patrick. Oh, she was older than us. She was about 11. Oh, we were only 5 or 6. But poor Carol had a wooden leg, a left leg actually. And what had happened, I mean, the war was going to be over in about 9 months anyway. Some German fighter, God knows what he was doing over England at that stage of the war, got hit, started to come down, and he hadn't decided if he was going to crash, he would take out a few people along the way. So he strafed a farmhouse where little Carol lived and was just playing at the kitchen table. He strafed the place and it caught fire. Shot her leg right off. She was so lucky to survive. We don't know. Well, we didn't think about it at the time, but nobody knew how she survived. They got her to the cottage hospital, and I don't think any doctors were there, but it was the nurses that kept her going long enough to get doctors down there. Now the pilot did survive the crash, but before the Home Guard could pick him up, the women in the area, with a few lane girls thrown in, got to him first. And I believe the result of 9 or 10 women with 2-pronged pitchforks, shovels and that sort of thing left something that looked rather horrible. I think the angle was that the war was nearly over and it was a little girl. Anyway, she had a wooden leg with a sort of a foot thing put on it. It was replaced later, but she was gorgeous. trying to think who else was scarred. Amongst the children, the scarring was only physical. Mentally, we just threw it off. It was all part of the day. Adults, we had a few damaged people. Mr. Clifton, who during World War II had been too old to fight, had been the air raid warden for the village. And after the war, the air raid siren they used to sound was put on top of the viaduct for the volunteer fire brigade. And in peacetime, you know, things still catch fire. But it was the same siren as during World War II. And whenever it went off, he'd bicycle down the main street yelling out, "The bombers are on us, the bombers are on us." And then he would just collapse until somebody took him away and calmed him down, usually with a lot of whiskey. No point in medicines, are there? Not at that stage. Whiskey did the job quite well. So that was it. That's what we grew up with. Did it damage us? I don't know. Probably not. Ow. It's a mute point. No good looking back on it now. With the kids today, I do blame a lot the teachers and the new regulations at school. Parents can't hit their kids anymore, and definitely not the teachers at school. Whereas when we were at their age, and well, a bit younger, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, parents could bounce you out the front door if you did something wrong. And at school, the teachers, the vultures, wore the capes or carry canes. You'd hear a swish and then feel pain. And you knew you'd been caught doing something or other. I mean, they didn't do it for, well, a couple did it for nothing. But it kept us in line. Look at Mother Nature, a lion cub playing up. And it annoys Dad so far, and then so far, and then the next thing you know, there's one swipe of a paw and the little bugger goes hurtling across the ground to come up against a tree root or a tree or something. But he learnt not to do it again. Unfortunately, the nanny state doesn't allow for that anymore. And I think that's where half the trouble starts. Now, before you all start saying I'm a child beater, all the rest, I'm not. It was only when it was deserved. And if it's deserved, and I include attitude in this, that soon gets knocked out of us when we were little. They deserve what they get, and it should be allowed to punish them in the appropriate manner. I better go. Another bad night. And before people start throwing rocks through the window, although they can't do that until I actually upload this. Cheers.